is Verge of On the Verge TV, and today I have the pleasure of being joined by Morrow Jr. of Morrow and Morrow and Associates and Casper Management. How are you?
I'm well. Tongue twister, I know.
Tongue twister.
Yeah.
I had to get it out. Can you describe your experience with developing and implementing marketing strategies?
Yeah, so one thing that we actually harp on more at the company is public relation strategies. And developing those, we like to do a full analysis of what the client is going through, what their goals are, what their objectives are. One thing that we really like to highlight and pinpoint is community outreach and messaging. So a lot of times it's identifying certain key players within a certain field, a certain community or industry, and then building those relationships with the client as well. So a lot of times we talk about influencers and people think automatically of the biggest social media influencers. But for us, we like to think about community surrogates. I think, and the company thinks that one of the most slept on group of people to really influence are faith-based leaders.
Yeah.
You know, once you can touch them, you're touching entire congregation, as well as political influencers as well and surrogates, and they can serve as message makers because they do influence entire districts of people. So when we look at strategies, we look at, of course, you know, what are some social media strategies, what are some digital media buys for advertising, but first, how do you get to the grassroots and really touch those people organically and authentically?
Yes, and I know firsthand influencing and PR is very important for you to really streamline your process. So can you give me any examples of any particularly challenging projects you have come across with obstacles and how you've overcome them?
Yeah, so I would say one of the biggest obstacles really came from, or this year, or 2022, was a project that I had with Casper. And that was creating content for, or in support of Governor Whitmer during her campaign.
Big Gretch?
Yeah, Big Gretch. And with that, I was tasked with developing a think tank of influencers. And so because I work heavily with comedians, that's instantly who I thought of. So we got 5 different comedians together in a think tank. We met once a week for about a month and a half. And well, really it was like 3 weeks. And from there, it's just trying to figure out how do we get inner city individuals, young people who are very apathetic to politics, to get involved and to get interested, to make sure that they vote. This was a very important election. Gretchen Whitmer was challenged by Tudor Dixon. It was a very close race. But out of that, we developed the Gretch Did song with G. Mac Cash. Exactly, and it was produced by Helluva. We developed so many pieces of content that were skit related, that were just quick hits, quick comedic hits. A lot of those we produced but didn't make to distribution. But the Gretch Did song actually made it. And just trying to get that out was difficult in itself because
Eminem posted.
He did post it, and we had to go through. What made it difficult mainly was all of the political legalities that we had to follow. So you couldn't say vote, you couldn't say election, you couldn't say a lot of the key words because it was politically paid for. So with that, it was so hard to think of the language and messaging to ensure that people knew exactly what we were talking about and what we wanted to relay.
Yeah, I really would have been petrified at that point because I didn't know that those type of legalities were involved. But G. Mac Cash is definitely the right person to do that.
He's a genius.
Yes, he has clips everywhere. I saw he was on the Tonight Show.
Yep, he was I think the viral clip of the year or something like that.
Really?
So he's going crazy.
Okay. How do you plan to continue your professional development and stay up to date with the latest trends?
Yeah, social media. Social media as well as reading like trade publications. I think that is highly slept on still. You know, I still look at the news. I don't look at a newspaper, but I'll look at Detroit News or Free Press or the Chronicle. I'll even look at, like, because I'm in talent management, I'll look at certain comedy blogs. If so, I'll look at certain clips to see what are a lot of comedians doing, what are their tactics on social media to ensure that their clips are going out there, that name is going out there. So I study the game as much as possible, even the leaders of these certain industries, senior talent managers, different public relations practitioners. I just try to see, you know, what best practices they're doing, look at their case studies, and try to implement it within what we do as well, but giving it a certain twist and twang that is unique to our company.
I love that. So I know you didn't intend to go directly into the family business. You had other plans, but it's always wonderful when someone is able to create generational wealth in the way that your father is scaling the business. Yes. So even since you didn't plan to go directly into this, what were your original plans with your degree?
Yeah. So I got my bachelor's in organizational communications from DePaul University in Chicago. And I originally, once I left Detroit, like I didn't apply to any school in the state of Michigan.
Really?
Zero. My fallback plan was gonna be like Howard.
You was jumping ship on us?
Instantly. That's when the city was going bankrupt. It was so much, like, corruption was super high at that point. And so I just understood that opportunity was greater for me if I left. And going to Chicago opened my eyes to that. So right after school, I wanted to either stay in Chicago or had a job offer there or even go somewhere else out of state. But the plan was to work for Northwestern Mutual. Like that was a job that I had secured.
Accounting?
Insurance.
Insurance.
So it's like heavy sales. But I had to take different certifications that summer. I stayed in Chicago that summer after graduation to take these certifications and just enjoy the last of my lease. But going through this preparation, I said, you know what, this is not for me. This is not for me. And so I had to make one of the hardest calls to this day, which was calling the person who hired me, which was one of the managing partners at the time, to say, hey, I appreciate this. I don't want you to feel like you wasted resources and time, but this isn't my next stepping stone.
Thanks, but no thanks.
Pretty much, but it was just, I didn't want to let somebody down who invested so much into me already. It was willing to give me a shot and could see my potential and my talent. But then my dad said, hey, come on, let's do it.
Good morning.
And then I understood, I could see where Detroit was going. And I could see that a lot of the changes happening to Detroit weren't happening by people like us. And so I wanted to be a catalyst of that change, of the positive progression of the city. So I say, you know what? Let's do it. I'll move back.
Period.
Yeah.
I feel like you're answering, like a lot of my questions you're bundling into one go. So I was going to say, besides the namesake, what motivated you to take over the family business? But
yeah, so I don't even think that right now I know that's something my dad wants. Obviously, it's the namesake. But to take over, I don't know yet. I think in order to keep the legacy on, to keep the name on, because I would hate to drop the ball on everything that he's created over time. But I know that with this and with Casper, if there's some way to kind of merge the two, if MMA, Morrow and Associates could be like a holding or parent company for Casper, and maybe any other thing that's there. We have the Gladiator Group as well. That's more so crisis management. So if MMA can be a parent company, holding company, and have everything else under that umbrella, cool. But as of now, I don't know I don't know if I just want to fully take over MMA just by itself. I think my interests kind of are aligning in different ways.
How do you plan to maintain the legacy of your own, apart from the namesake of your family? That's actually a really good question, because when I moved back home, people would always ask me, do you plan to just stay in Detroit or do you plan to leave? And the answer that I'll always give them will be, when I can walk into a room and people say, oh, Mario Jr. or Mario, and they mean me specifically, and it's not, oh, you're Mario's son, right? Or, oh, you Junior. Oh, I know you. I want it to be completely separate away from my dad. He's a great man, he's done a lot. But because we do have the same name, I find it very important for me to create my own path. So that's why I said, taking over the company, yeah, I want to merge it, but I think Casper in itself really embodies me and my interests, and almost really my purpose too, and my fulfilling of life within that. So just kind of doing my own thing, like with Casper, with Brunch and Mario's, with anything that I do, I want to make sure that obviously my name is going to carry on with his legacy, but I want to make sure that people add that Junior at the end too, just to separate the two personalities and identities. Understood. So how would you describe your own personal management style and how you apply it to the business?
Management to
Casper.
To Casper?
Yes,
okay.
Your own personal talent.
Honestly, so the first talent client I had is TG, TG the host. And with him, we were just two hungry guys. I had no interest in talent management, but he came to me and said, hey, I kind of like what you're doing. I like how you're moving. My manager's, making a transition. Let's make something shake. I said, cool, let's do it. But we were just hungry, just kind of being creative. And I think that's the biggest thing for me right now is staying hungry and creative. I'm gonna hear a bunch of no's. I hear sometimes, or really a lot of times I don't hear back. But I always try not to get discouraged. And I tell that to my clients too, whether it's TG, whether it's J Will, whether it's Troy, whether it's anybody that I work with. It could be T-Barb.
T-Barb. Shout out to T-Barb.
Shout out to T-Barb. It could be anybody, but I try to just let people know not to be discouraged. And I try to be the motivator, like a motivating manager, someone that's just like, hey, it's gonna be okay. But I also try to be realistic.
Yeah.
Jay Will and I had a very real conversation the other day, and it was about growth and kind of breaking some bad habits that we both have, just making sure that we're staying on our A game and being accountable to each other. And so I try to keep that close-knit relationship with all of my clients, just to ensure that they know that I got them, but I want them to know at the same time that I expect that same work on their end too.
Definitely.
And so when it comes to translating that into MMA, into anything else that I do, I try to keep a positive mind. I try to be very optimistic, but I try to keep it real with myself too.
Absolutely. A growth plan is for sure important, but people have to be mindful that Rome wasn't built in a day.
Exactly.
As long as you got their back, I'm sure there's nothing for them to worry about.
You feel me?
As far as long term, where do you see Casper Management in like the next 5 years?
Casper Management. So I see Casper Management being up there with the big dogs, like with innovative artists, with CAA, with United Talent Agency, with Clutch Sports. Clutch and Rich Paul is really who I look up to kind of in the game as a black man, kind of taking charge in a pretty white-dominated field and representation. But I see it being just that. I don't want to be stuck in comedy, but I would definitely want to go into music more. I manage Tropic. He's a singer, R&B singer. I want to go into film and cinema. I have a strong passion for movies and TV, like all of that. You feel me? We were talking off camera about that, and I definitely want to get involved in some way. So I see Casper just expanding in all ways, always. And there's a kind of a slogan that I have is posted on the corner of talent and opportunity. So I want to be at that intersection to be that bridge between all the talent that's out here in the world that's underlooked with all the right opportunities that can help them grow and excel.
You know exactly what you're doing, obviously. I'm a rookie out here.
I learn every day. Every day is trial and error. I reach out to so many people for mentorship, for guidance, and people may look at my DM and not respond, or they'll look at it, read it, I can see that they read it, they'll like it, and not respond. So every day is trial and error. I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I didn't go to school for talent management, for artist representation. I just Google, I try to learn, I try to take tidbits from different people as I can, and each experience is just lesson in itself.
Okay, so now that we're diving deep into Casper Management, after a little bit of research, I did see that your previous name on Instagram was Sir Casper.
Yeah.
So that's what the name originated from. Where did that even come from? Where did you pick that moniker up at?
So, and that was my Instagram name in college. And Sir Casper was after I crossed. I'm a Kappa.
Yes, I know you're a
Everything,
Kappa man.
all the C's, the hard C's go to K's. And at the time, I don't know where the Sir came from. That was just, I think, just like knighted.
Black king at this point.
You feel me? But it was almost like when you're knighted, by a queen, you become a Sir. And it was just to that highest level. But then Casper in itself, I think I embody the ghost-like qualities so much of, I'm here, then I'm not.
Behind the scenes.
Yeah, all the time. And so when it came to naming the company, I was at our old office downtown with my cousin Ian, and I was just thinking about like, what can this company be? Like, what is my brand gonna be? And he said, well, your name was Casper, why don't you kind of play with that? And I thought it was genius because even with the personal qualities of a ghost that I think I align with, my business mindset and how I act from a business perspective is the same. So I dropped the E in Casper, and at the time it was like Casper, and I was mainly focused on PR. So I dropped the E, and it was like a play on words of Casper, PR at the very end.
Yeah.
But then I saw that PR in itself is cool, but that wasn't where my passion aligned. It was more so like in talent, the hustle and bustle of it all. So I just kept it just straight Casper at that point. And one of the mantras that I say within Casper is rarely seen, sometimes heard, always felt. So like a ghost, you'll rarely see me. Like if I'm on scene, a lot of people don't even know I'm Jay Will's manager. They'll just see me there, think I'm a videographer if I have a camera with me, or I'm just one of the entourage, but I'm there doing the business. But it's cool because the limelight is on them. Sometimes heard, I don't normally do interviews either, but there is a point where I need to get the message out, or if I do have to be an impromptu host for the night to bring Jay Will on stage, you'll see me. But always felt is, regardless if you see me or hear me, you're gonna see my clients, you're gonna see the impact that I have, the work that's being done. So I'm gonna always be felt. My work is gonna be felt whether you see me or hear me or not, you're gonna see the product.
Presence is absolutely the most important, behind 100%. The scenes or in front of the camera.
100%.
And I wanna say I am honored to be one of the few to get an interview with you, so thank you. Love that for me. I know we keep covering going back into the family narrative, but I'm so hyped to know that there's something of this measure going on in the inner city that people don't really know about, and it all starts at home. So I read that your parents will be married for 30 years on September 4th. That is amazing. How do you feel like your upbringing has shaped your views on marriage and family life?
It's a blessing. To be raised in not only a two-parent household, but a healthy two-parent household, to see love, to see genuine love, to see all aspects of it, which isn't always beautiful or pretty. You know, there's a lot of challenge, a lot of struggle, a lot of adversity, but to be able to see the mindset that you have to have a successful marriage, the hard work that goes into it. You know, I've seen arguments or whatever, I've seen disagreements, but I've seen the work that's being put in to find a resolution and to come to a common ground. To understand that we are two people, you know, there may be days where, you know what, I don't like you. I want my space, but you still choose to love that person. You still choose to go through the journey. So just having the sense of compassion and love and being raised on that, I think that's how I move every day. I'm very intentional with moving with love. I'm very intentional with moving with purpose. And I think that's what marriage is. You have to have the love and the purpose to keep going. Otherwise, you'll just crumble. Otherwise, you'll want to get a divorce, and there goes that picture perfect image. But to be able to see the reality of it all, it was a blessing. And I think that has changed my perspective of just life in general.
Definitely. And it's crazy you mentioned being raised on love. I was actually having this conversation with somebody a couple of days ago. The difference between someone who came from a two-parent household, I also came from a two-parent household, versus somebody, because we were raised on love, versus somebody who came from a single-parent household is sometimes love versus survival. And dealing with people in my everyday life, I feel like I can see the indifference of someone who was raised on love versus someone who was raised in survival. Like the whole narrative, the way they move and purpose, everything is completely different.
That's interesting. I've never thought about the survival versus love. I don't want to say comparison, but the difference in it. So that's a very interesting take for sure.
Yeah, it blows. When you really take it into consideration, like ask somebody, that's especially someone you're having dealings with personally or professionally, it really changes your whole perspective on what they're doing. Even I feel like, you know, religion plays a part into it. We're not going to get into that. Huge. We're not going to go in that deep into it. But what particular values do you feel like your parents instilled in you growing up that you use on your day-to-day, apart from the love and walking in your purpose? I
would say number one is integrity. Just standing on who you are and the values that you have, whether it's respect, honesty, transparency, like the integrity portion of it all, like it's so much to your name, it's so much to your reputation, it's so much to how people perceive you, as well as the decisions that you make. You know, every decision, some decision could come down to, you know, thinking very selfless or being selfish. And I've always taught to be selfless. In almost every decision, of course, you have to look out for yourself, but to understand the privilege that I have, the blessings that I have in life, it's important to give back and to pay that forward. And that comes with integrity as well. You know, I try to be very philanthropic. I try to understand and recognize that the position that I'm in is very rare. Yes. And just to think about that, I try not to boast about it. I try not to be very cocky about it, but I look at it as a blessing. And in that same way, I try to pay it forward, giving back as much as I can, but just standing on who I am and who I know I want to be, and not allowing other people to tarnish my character, not allowing other people's opinions to weigh down on the person that I am, the person I pray to God to be. So integrity is big.
Definitely. Okay, so now that we are coming to the close, we can talk about what I really wanted to get into, which is brunch at Mario's. Today's episode is sponsored by Motu Vige, the champagne of choice for brunches that I have these days. So it's only right that we had them here for brunch at Mario's.
Shout out! I need to get them to sponsor a brunch.
Yes, absolutely.
Before the pandemic hit, we were set to. There we go. Cheers. Before the pandemic, we were fired. Definitely need them.
Yes.
We were set to travel continuously with the brunch. So we did Chicago. After Chicago, LA was on the floor. Could have did Houston. Who knows? But then the pandemic hit. So now we've kind of taken a step back only because those events are so personal and so close. And they were being held at my parents' house. I didn't want any risks.
Yeah.
You know, my parents are older. I don't want anybody to be compromised. So people always ask, what's up? Where's the next brunch? When we gonna do it? And it's been years at this point. But there is a shift in energy. I'm getting re-motivated. I throw with my partners, Javion Johnson and Chris Jefferson as well. Without them, there will be no brunch. But we're gotta have them. It's not just me. It's a whole team. But we're thinking about bringing it back.
Please do. I have not been able to attend, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, we got to get you to cover one.
Yeah, I will be there. Just say the word. I love seeing you put together such a immaculate but still intimate brunch for Black young people to network at. We don't see that often, or it's nowadays brunch ends up with somebody twerking over your French toast. So it's really nice to see people can come together and still have a good old Detroit time and make something of it. What is a good connection that you feel like you've made over the years at these brunches that holds true?
A good connection that I've made. So honestly, I think a lot of the connections that I've made aren't even solely based on the people that are invited, because it's invite only. We know every single person that's coming. But I think the biggest connection that we've made are people who want to come. People who saw it, people who heard about it. That's how my connection with TG happened. He saw the brunches, because we don't advertise it. It just happens, and then people see it on somebody's story, and then we drop a recap. And it's like, well, how did I miss it? And so people see a lot of people that they know there. And so with TG, I think that may be the most impactful, because I started my talent management career. And he was the one that saw, I know all these people here. How am I not invited?
Right.
Who is this person throwing it? I know Chris, I know Javion, but who is this Mario guy?
That's how I know how I missed it.
Yeah. So, and I think, and that's again me being behind the scenes. I'm just very low key in that aspect. But I think that's a lot of the connections like that are not more so the people that are initially invited, but more so the people that have that after effect of, how can I get invited? What do I have to do? Do I need to submit a form? It's really just, we ask for referrals. Dope people, if we see you making moves in the city, we want you to be there. Because we want it to be a shared value for everybody coming. You walk in, you add value, and you leave with that same value as well.
Oh, wonderful. And you did mention to me that you plan on branching off and doing, I know you did it in Chicago before, but I know you plan on doing it in probably Florida. Do you see this event being a city for city thing, kind of like R&B too, how they do R&B, trap karaoke, that's what it's called. How they do trap karaoke, it's gonna be something like that, where we're touring and you can just catch us at the pop-up.
So that was the initial goal, to where we would just go in every city, tap in with those people that we know that are there. At this point, I've gained a following in Florida, and we want to do it in LA. Tap in with them. Who do you know? Who do you refer? We really only need 100 people, and that's it. It could be 75 to 100, and that's a nice time. So we want to bring that Detroit culture to every city we go to, but we also want to embrace those cities as well.
I feel like you have everything, so it's I said, you said you don't know what you're doing, but you make it look so good. It's a great package. You
when
put
you can
it
talk,
together.
when you know how to talk well, it looks like that. But
Mouthpiece
behind us, you saw the office. There's stuff all on the wall. There's pieces of paper on the wall. It's a madhouse behind the scenes. But whenever your product is out there in the public eye, whenever you're out there in the public eye, you got to package together, because you never know who's going to see it. You never know who could want to help and take it to the next level. Because if you don't have your stuff together and there's too much confusion or disorganization, then people will say, that's a good idea, but I don't think I'm ready to attach myself or my brand with them just yet, because they need to get their organization together to get their stuff together. But when you can accurately articulate your goals and your thoughts, or at least where you want to go, even if you don't know how you're going to get there, but if you can talk about what you want to do, certain people along the way, and God will place people along the way that will fulfill certain missing pieces and will elevate you.
Yes. Where did the idea of brunch, I mean, I know it was for networking and everything, but what made you decide, hey, we need to do brunch instead of we could just get a pop-up tent and throw a barbecue or something? Like, what made you say, yeah, brunch is the narrative I want to apply?
So it came from my time in Chicago. You know, Chicago has great brunch. Multiple places where you can brunch. And I would always come home during different breaks throughout college, and I would see new things. My mom would send me like, hey, it's a new restaurant. Hey, it's a new this. And every time I would come home, I would say, dang, like Detroit could literally have the exact same stuff as Chicago. And I peeped that brunch was one of the things that we didn't have, like a staple brunch. It's trendy now. Yes, it's trendy.
You beat the wave.
It's very trendy now. But it was something that we didn't have for real. And I noticed as well that there was so many pockets of young professionals in the city that didn't intertwine and connect together. So that's why we wanted to do a brunch, because that was like a millennials' favorite pastime, but also making sure that people connect with each other. So yeah, as you said, you know, we're not twerking on your French toast, but we're ensuring that we're doing different activities so that you meet almost every single person in the room and you're leaving with those connections. So we're gonna play different games. You know, when you first come in, you're not gonna get your name tag. You get somebody else's name tag, and you gotta go find yours.
Pulling my social anxiety out of the bag.
You feel me? But everyone has that same feeling, and we know who either knows each other or doesn't know each other or could strengthen that relationship. So we try to pair those name tags in that way. Just so that you have to go around and look. And if you squinting at somebody's chest looking at a name tag, you're automatically gonna start talking to them. And so then the conversation starts, and you'll say, oh, what do you do? Oh, my friend is here too, you should meet them. And the connectivity is just so natural.
Okay. So for someone that is at this brunch, that is just starting out, even someone like me, you know, on the Verge, it's my little baby, we're working on it. What would you recommend doing if you don't have a backing like an MMA behind you and you are not even that social media savvy? What do you recommend to such a smaller company that's trying to put themselves on the map?
Just be out there. You know, now, I say I'm very low-key now, but when I first moved to the city, I was going to everything. I was going to all the events, I was going to all the parties. Anytime somebody was sponsoring, like the Pistons could be doing something or the Red Wings could be doing, I'm going. I just want to go because I knew a couple people, a lot of my friends that I grew up with left for college and then stayed gone. So there was only a handful of us that were still here, and everybody had different interests. So I knew at the time that I just needed to branch out and just meet new people. So I would say that, just be uncomfortable. Get comfortable with being uncomfortable, and that will allow you to grow, gain knowledge, be coachable, you know, seek information. Like I said, to this day, I'm sending out emails every day for shows, trying to seek mentorship, and I maybe don't get a response or people will say no, but I don't allow it to discourage me.
You miss every shot you don't take.
Exactly. So I'm a shooter, and you know, with more reps, the more shots you gonna make, and I'm trying to be Curry out here for real.
You are. No, you giving Rich Paul. I love the background of his story, going from being never having experience, like you said, not having experience coming into the sports management gate, and LeBron taking a chance on him, and look at where he's at. Look at his team, Clutch Sports. I don't even watch basketball, and I know who Rich Paul is.
Yeah.
So
he's a big piece for the culture.
Definitely, I see that aligning with you for sure.
I appreciate it. No, I need all that. I need all those, all the manifestations, affirmations, blessings.
Good vibes.
Throw it on me.
All good vibes. Okay, so tell me something about yourself that people wouldn't expect that don't know you.
Okay. So a lot of people may know this, but I don't think they understand like the true passion that I have for it. I love Toy Story.
Really?
I don't know if you saw my
office.
I
saw the dunks that you posted, the Toy Story dunks.
Yeah. So I have like it's a Woody and Buzz in there, right on my desk. There's a Woody and Buzz in my crib. I collect like Toy Story things. So like there's like are you familiar with Toy Story? So like the first movie.
Ask if there's a snake in your movie.
So at the first movie, they're like the claw when they're at Pizza Planet with the little aliens. Like I have that claw, like the actual like mini machine of it, and it works.
Really?
But I kept it in the box. Like people gift me Toy Story things, and I won't open it.
And you should.
Like
Collective
it's
item.
yeah, it's legit. I love Toy Story. As a kid, it's home videos of like me walking around with like my Buzz and my Woody, and I have like a few years ago somebody just gifted me like a Woody head like Halloween candy basket. So I love Toy Story and I also love space. Like I want to go to space one day.
You gonna take that Elon Musk trip?
I will. I will. Like I want to, even if it's not like going literally, even if it's not going like on the moon, like I want to be in space for a couple days. Like I would love that. There's a space camp for adults that they have in, I think it's Alabama or Texas.
Where you going?
When I can get the cheese. It's a little expensive because it's like a whole week and you're just like training like an astronaut.
Oh, you legit?
No, I'm for real. So these are, space, NASA, like if I could work for NASA, I want to have a partnership with NASA in some capacity for a client. I don't know what that would look like yet, but I would do that. If I could produce a comedy show that was streamed from space to Earth, that would be crazy. Like I'm just, it's
Casper literally going to the moon.
it's stuff that people don't, just immediately know, but close friends may know, relationships may know. But Toy Story and space.
That's so cute.
Yeah.
Listen, my fascination with Toy Story these days, because I'm a child, is that I realized that Barbie in the movie with the hook was a hooker. I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
They coming out with Toy Story 5.
I'll stop at 3. I'm sorry. But
Everyone, I'm in the theaters that day.
No, I'm going to. When Little Mermaid comes out, I'm going to be there. Me and my red wig are
that's
going
your
to
one?
be there. That's my one. Like,
Okay.
I'm word for word, line for line. I've got that like Baps. I'm going to be there. Forget them kids, everything. I'm there. Okay. Like I said, this episode was sponsored in part by Motu Vijay. Definitely my drink of choice when it's time for a mimosa. And please keep it locked.
About to be my new drink of choice too.
Of course.
There we go.
Okay.